What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Second Street Marvel. Thank you all so much for being here today. I do apologize about the delay. I do apologize. I had this thing scheduled for a few minutes earlier, but you know what? Things happen, getting everything ready for the show, and I just as soon have everything squared away and ready to go so we don't have to stumble over ourselves getting ready to get into the live show. Again, I apologize if you are here. Thank you all so much for being here. We are going to be talking about WandaVision. If this is going to be a spoiler discussion, so if you don't want any spoilers or anything, you're probably going to want to leave here in just a few minutes as I bring in my guest, Chillmonger. We're going to talk about WandaVision and just some of the things going on here and just kind of what we thought about it. And I'll probably drop a review and all kinds of other nerdy stuff later today. But thank you all so much for being here. Make sure that you do click that like button on the way in. Make sure you share it with your friends. And also, make sure you check the link down in the description right there at the very top. I put a link in there where you can go check out Chillmonger's channel. If you're not already subscribed to him, I'm not really sure what you're waiting for, but thank you all so much for being here. I see we got some good people here. We got Red Raven 96. We got Lord Veedo, my man, one of the Myrtle Maniacs. Let's see who else we got here. Everybody's saying what's up. Dude of Reviews, thank you so much for being here. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in my first guest. Or I guess our only guest for today. Sorry. We've got my man, Chillmonger.
Hey, what's up, Veedo? What's up, Red Raven? I do not share the same opinion of you, Red Raven. I thought this was a series beginning.
All right, man. Right off the bat, getting right into it. Okay, so you didn't like the episode 1 or 2 so far?
Yeah. I didn't like both of them. What we're getting from it, it's not for me. I am gonna reserve, my F minus grade for the show because maybe everything that they are introducing in 1 and 2 will mean something in the grand future. I don't think so. I think like it's relevant to this pocket reality. But I mean, it's not horrible either. It's just not. It's not what we had with Mandalorian. That spoiled us.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Like me, I disagree. I thought it was great. I was watching those first 2 episodes. I'm like, like my mind is sitting there like constantly blown like this whole time. There was so many things that they talked about, so many things they referenced in this series, or just in these
Okay.
first 2 episodes. Like I'm sitting there like the whole like, and you know what? I gotta say like right off the bat, how did you feel right at the beginning, getting right into it? How did you feel?
That felt good with the logo playing and everything, starting it off. I'm like, yeah, we're getting a continuation to the story that ended 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you know what? That's kind of how I felt too. Like I was like super jazzed. Like I heard the music kicking in. Did you notice in that first episode they really kind of heightened a lot of the instruments, like the drums?
Did they?
It seemed like it seemed like they really churched it up a little bit. And then as it went into the black and white stuff, how it all kind of toned down, and then went into like that mono sound and everything. Like I thought it seemed like they really kind of pitched a lot of it up until that point until they brought it down and I was like ooh man, I love the way they kind of sort of ease into it with the music and everything, bringing it into that old school 50s feel. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was absolutely amazing. Oh, you know what I just realized is that okay, it's not going too bad over us, the chat. um I wonder if we should even maybe just take that off for now. There we go. um but yeah, I thought it was really great, the introduction and just seeing the Marvel logo and everything coming up. I was kind of like I was already giddy, just getting into it, and like I said, they kind of pitched up some of those instruments and then they brought it down. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh man, it just made me so excited.
I didn't catch on to it, but that's kind of what I'm open for. There may be more Easter eggs and things like for example, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but the public library,
Hmm.
you were talking about that the whole time. But let me bring it back to Infinity War and Endgame. When they played the Avengers Endgame on the screen, half of the orchestra was playing because half of the universe has been snapped away. Remember that part?
Hmm.
That's something that they are known to do. So they're just continuing with the theme of musical instruments playing a part into the story, with the beginning of WandaVision. So yeah, something I didn't pick up on, but I'll give them their points because maybe this show is actually epically epic, and I'm just not. Keep going. What else happened on the show that you liked?
Just so much of it. Now, the thing that I was kind of giddy with excitement about too, that had kind of had me chuckling was remember going into Avengers Endgame and they were saying like, oh, the first like all the everything you see in the trailers is the first few minutes of the movie, and it
Yeah,
seemed like there was a lot of that in the first place from what we got in the trailers. And I remember being at the theater kind of chuckling inside my head going like, man, there was so much of the stuff in the trailers that was just there at the very beginning of the movie that that was like it kind of made me chuckle like like oh man, all this really did have like all those little rumors like oh it's just the first few minutes was kind of true. And that's what happened here as well, where
we got to give them points for that.
yeah, we get into it, and like the whole like that whole intro was like it was like the first few minutes of the show was like all the trailers were. That was really about it. They've given us little things here and there in between it all, but it was all it just the way it was done. I thought was really good. And thank you for everybody else just joining. We got the Godfather, Star Wars Santa. Thank you all so much for being here. But yeah, for me that introduction like it was really cool, but it does seem like it kind of thrust us right into this world and you don't know anything about what's going on. And I thought that was really kind of cool. You know, you just kind of in this world. It's like, you know, like it feels like it's already been going on. And you can see getting into it, they don't really know what's going on either. They're kind of confused when they start getting confused about the date on the calendar. They didn't really know what it
Yeah.
was. Do you think there's more to that, to the hearts and that heart being there on the calendar?
Ooh, let me let my mind imagine. There's Ironheart. Nah. There's Heart to Heart. No, what? I don't know. What could it mean?
Well, I mean, I'm not really for sure. Like, because the one thing I thought was weird was, well, for one thing, like yesterday, I'm not sure. I was on Twitch and I was watching BurkeTheNerd. He was having a stream and they were talking about that thing that they revealed in that trailer, as well about that heart being on there. I'm like, you know, because we didn't know at the time. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's probably just that it was his bosses coming over for the dinner because their last name was
Yeah,
Hart, from what we knew. Um,
that's it.
yeah, and I thought it was weird that it's just there on the calendar. They don't really know what's going on. They're confused. They're confused about everything. And one of the things that I did like about the whole thing, just especially through these first two episodes, was that kind of feeling where Wanda is just trying to fit into the status quo of what family life is within this time period, which they're living in this show. So
Hmm.
I thought that was some very interesting stuff there as well. And then just all the other mentions once Agatha Harkness comes over and you know talking about you know she's talking about the devil and all the, you know just all those things we've been speculating about.
The the devil's in the details. That one, like, ooh, that perked me up. Like, okay, we're getting into Mephisto, huh?
Yeah.
See, and I hope that coming out of this conversation, you might alert me to more of those. Also, like all those other Easter egg videos that you know are coming in about 4 or 5 hours
Oh yeah.
when those guys get it together. I want to be wowed by it, but so far I am similar to who else was it that in here? It was Veedo who said he didn't feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and see, Godfather's feeling me. Godfather's feeling me here too.
No, but a dude review says people complained of episodes of Mando being drawn out too, but it all built to the overall story.
Right. Yeah, and I think anybody like yourself that like even like Lord Vito, if you didn't enjoy what's going on, I do think all of that's going to be playing into what's going on in the overall scheme of things, and that's just some of the stuff that I've been theorizing here because like I think that's kind of why my mind was blown throughout this whole episode was like everything I've kind of been theorizing about seems like we're getting a version of it. Like the Pleasant Hill thing that I've been on this whole time. I swear to God, at the end of the episode, I'm like, dude, is it just me? Is it just me imagining this here? Because like I'm like, this looks like you know, this looks like Sword is there monitoring Wanda and everything that's
Mm.
going on. We see those. I don't know. We're skipping way ahead here, but we see those monitors at the very end. We see
of
the
episode 1.
yeah, we see those hands. They look like female hands. Whose hands are those? Is it Agatha Harkness? Is she part of Sword? I'm thinking maybe so. The only other person I could think of was Maria Hill, because and this is all just because partially my theory, but we see that you could hear at that same scene, you could hear helicopters outside, you could see them watching that television, and they sat there and they made, I didn't even see if they were making notes or whatever, but you could see they had that little shield book or the sword book there and everything. Shield, sword, is that not the same thing?
Same thing.
And I was sitting there and like, they're sitting there watching, monitoring. They know what's going on. They're watching like this TV show, whatever it is going on. And that only makes me think even more of Pleasant Hill. And then just kind of everything else going on in there we see just the people in the community. We see Monica who we know to be Monica Rambeau. They're in this reality as well. And it's just really got my mind running wild with all of these things that's going on, and it makes me think with all of these, if we do see Agatha Harkness there, we see throughout the episode she's kind of, it seems like she knows something's up. She's interjecting herself into Wanda and Vision's life, and and all that's really, it's really crazy. That's like, because like, and that's the reason I jumped so far ahead to this point, because every single thing that led up to that point at the very end that happened in the episode was kind of blowing my mind, especially when we get to Vision's work. I thought that was very interesting, the whole work situation.
Okay. No, I'm just doing what he was doing. Vision was just like turbo fast loading the thing. The special effects in here were trash. I mean, I'm not dissing it. It should be,
Right.
but like I could do that.
Right.
Break a saucer and fix it magically. All you got to do is put it the same clip in reverse.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
him at work, right?
Yeah, and I think they're doing all that because of like the TV technology they probably would have had at those times, is kind of why they're doing a lot of that, to give you that feeling, because they did that through so much of these episodes, giving that old school like 50s 60s feel to it, definitely. But the thing is, when they get to his work, when he's sitting there computing and he starts questioning, like, hey, what are we doing all this for? And the guy's like, oh, we're, and he mentions about productivity has gone up 300%. He's talking about all these things, right? And Vision's sitting there questioning him about what they're doing. And it's very interesting because he starts to, he said, God, what was it he said about about Vision not being like human, being a machine or something? He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, are you crazy?
I'm a carbon-based form.
Yeah, I'm a carbon. Yeah, what was it? Yeah, carbon-based life form. This and that, and basically all the things that they said about him in Avengers: Age of Ultron. They described him the same way. Um, I can't exactly remember all the quote that they used there, but he said it the exact same way that they described him in Avengers: Age of Ultron. And the thing is what I found interesting about it is throughout this, he's sitting there questioning what they're doing there and everything. We got the people around. Now, part of my theory is that all these people living in this town are agents of Sword, right? And my theory is that they've got this whole town kind of like, it's a simulation that they're doing. Now I'm thinking this guy is one of the agents, and I think what they're doing is, because we know that Vision was originally, like, he was Jarvis. He was a program. He was a program from Tony Stark, that they made. We also know that Shuri had downloaded his mind and everything like that. So they have all of these things. But let's not forget, we've got Sword involved here. We've got mentions of, man, I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, of Strucker. We got Stark Industries, everything at play here. All these people have experimented with the Mind Stone, right? So they all have this kind of this technology, this AI technology, if you will. And they're making, I think what they're doing is they're using Vision, they're using the AI, just like we've seen in Age of Ultron, they're using that to try to build something, or trying to use and harness Vision's computing software, if you will, for whatever it is that they're trying to do. Which I think in this case is, using this reality and manipulating whatever's going on the situation here. And I think a lot of that was set up in that scene where it's like they're kind of using Jarvis at this computing center, and it's actually Sword actually sitting there like using him and trying to
Uh-huh.
figure out him so they can get to Wanda in some sort of way
I understand.
and
So
manipulate her.
Wanda, well, I think I understand actually. So Wanda created this pocket reality, and in order to infiltrate, they took the dead vision and introduced it to her reality as like an antibody to the virus.
Well, I think
No?
I think something like that. I think they've actually got her imprisoned and they were watching her and monitoring her wherever she was at, which is where Jimmy Woo would come in later. Um,
That was his voice, right?
yeah, and I'm thinking kind of like that's where that's going with Jimmy Woo is like I think maybe because we like I said there was I remember one of the leaks that I could find a while back was that Wanda ends up that she's actually been staying with Pepper and Morgan Stark. Whether that's true or not is really kind of irrelevant. But if they were, say she's there on house arrest, Jimmy Woo's watching her, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. But say we've got Swords sitting there monitoring everything that's going on because they've created this kind of prison for her because she has been warping reality and they don't really know what's going on. So that's how Sword ended up there. And that's when they're kind of creating this reality to try to get through to her and then using Vision, interjecting Vision and his computing status because she's, like they're on, they were connected, by way of the Mind Stone anyway. I'm thinking that's kind of what was set up through that whole scene there with the work and everything. But I don't know. It could just be me.
No, no, there is something to that because if this was just all a figment of Wanda's imagination, then the show would have never moved over to what's Vision doing over at work. It would just focus on Wanda. But we are getting to see the only other person's scenes who we got to see was Vision when he was at work. Every other time it was at the home, focused around Wanda. So the conclusion I come to is that Vision is partly alive or being controlled by someone, but there is a reason why we went to Vision, and there's a reason why he didn't remember the heart was there, and Wanda didn't remember why the heart was there. If we want to give them credit for this grand mystery, I don't think it's that deep, but I could be proven wrong, and this show will be awesome, awesomer for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and here we go right here. ReeferMan Reviews was saying the commercial in episode 2 was crazy. The watch. And I think that's something is kind of funny too because it's something I was bringing up last night in the live stream I did was that watch. They did that commercial with the watch, and I was making mention about how in the trailers I noticed at one point we got Vision wearing this gold watch. We see also the oh man, why all of a sudden can I remember his name? The black guy with the afro later on, but he's in this episode. He was one of the guys on the committee in that second
Uh-huh.
episode. He was oh man,
Herbert,
Herbert.
Harold.
Yeah, yeah. He has that same gold watch on too. So they're all sitting there wearing this
Oh, he
watch.
did.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's more people. Like, I figured maybe it's a '70s thing and keeping up with the Joneses. Like everybody just got this watch. But then I'm telling you, that Strucker watch commercial had me sitting there like, okay, you're talking about there. You got your special woman, and you got your special watch. And I figured it was maybe one of those keeping up with the Joneses things. And I think that's kind of what it is. But that's why, like, we've got the whole Strucker watch thing in there. Like, it just it's got me. It's got my mind blown when it comes to some of these little things that it seems like they're setting up that feed into the theories that I've had, which is crazy because like I don't know. I was talking about that the other day too with Strucker, where we know he was doing the experiments in Sokovia as well,
Which they mentioned, Sokovia.
right? And over.
To a point where I question why is she being Sokovian like a weird thing, like she's foreign, when Vision speaks with that British accent. So clearly he's a foreigner. But it was like that was never questioned or anything about his customs. They made it seem like she was the one from a distant land. Guess who I am?
Right.
It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. The Godfather says, "Yo, Adam, where was DVD. Dick Van Dyke, which is interesting because there's all those there was those theories that Dick Van Dyke would actually possibly make a cameo role in these, and I'm thinking if we've already got Mephisto being hinted at and all these things, he could very well actually still end up popping up in some of those old school, in some of those older ones series like we just got in this. He does actually end up popping in to be Mephisto in that kind of throwback, that kind of callback to those series. Red Raven 96 says was the best part of Sword in the comics. Was Beast part of Sword in the comics?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I believe he was. Him and was Abigail Brand was
Abigail Brand
in charge of it. And I won't confess to know like a whole lot about Shield or Sword or anything in the comics or anything. So, but I was gonna say that little bit I do know. Bettany said the actor was at the end of the series. He's coming. Okay, yeah. See, and that, yeah, right there we go. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. That would be awesome if they had him do that. What I want to know is whose voice was it saying Wanda near the end of both episodes?
Jimmy Woo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that's Jimmy Woo. Yeah, exactly. Which really only brings me more to the conclusion of like Jimmy Woo's probably sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. Where we see in the trailers, we see him rushing up in his FBI uniform and all of that stuff.
So he's not jokey in this one, huh? We're supposed to take him as a serious FBI agent.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. And right here, and Duda Reviews is saying kind of what I was saying the whole time too. He says all extras in the cast are Sword members, and that's something I wholeheartedly believe. Because we know that, I mean, Monica Rambeau we know is working for Sword. We've seen that in some of the like the set photos and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I believe all these people in this town are working for Sword. I think Agatha Harkness is at this point, honestly, or Agnes. I'm sorry, Agnes is at this point as well. Like I said, I think all these and seeing that's the crazy thing about Pleasant Hill. Pleasant Hill was a lot like everybody's talking about Pleasantville, and we've seen Pleasantville references in these first couple episodes as well, with the red blood, the helicopter, and that small town just feel. And the thing is, like with the Sword agents being in there, living and going through this reality, and we can get, because that ties back into the Hearts coming over as well, is that in the Avengers Standoff series with Pleasant Hill, they actually had agents living inside of this prison to help monitor the inhabitants, the prisoners, and give a sense of normalcy. The funny thing is, though, is they did have a daycare there where they had Kobik, but there was no, as far as I remember, there wasn't any other kids in the town. I'd have to go back and check that out. And we kind of see that same thing here. All the agents in there, we don't really see any kids. And the other thing when it comes to the agents, the one thing I want to bring up that I thought was weird, they said his name on IMDb as something else, but I don't remember them saying anything. But Jones, the guy, the Dave Schwimmer looking guy, they call him Jones in the show. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, is that Rick Jones, maybe? But on IMDb, it says his name is Phil Jones, not Rick Jones. And I'm just like, I don't know. Because, we start to see all these names and stuff, and it always makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what else. It would be insane if Mary Kate and Ashley came in for a cameo. Yeah, that would be crazy. This show is just a Good Place ripoff. Marceau Lara says, "Holy F." Yeah, man. Absolutely. Holy. Oh, man. Let's see. Who else we got here? Star Wars Santa says, "So, Marvel sweaties. you are super excited or meh?" I'm super excited. Chillmonger's
I'm
meh. He's meh. He says, "I watched both episodes this morning and they were entertaining enough, but not something that I'm super excited after watching." Yeah, and I totally get that. Yeah.
I don't see myself rewatching this. I'll just let the Easter egg hunt people do the video, and maybe if there's redeeming value, I'll go back. But when I watch Mandalorian, season 3, I know the week before I'll be watching season 1 and season 2 binging because I want the knowledge I attained from those to refresh me, and maybe I'll have a grander appreciation of what I get to see in season 3. I do feel like a lot of this is filler throwaway. I remember, and I wrote it down, around the 17th minute, I was thinking this is going to be just this a filler episode. What could we possibly get? And that was at the dinner table when it was stop it. And I'm like, okay, now we're getting into some stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that scene, she satisfied him and gave him answers magically where he was content. And he's like, by the way, Vision, you're getting that raise. And he was just like magically happy. I don't feel like it was a reasonable explanation for why he was okay and just kind of went off.
Right. Yeah, that
It was right after he choked, right?
Yeah, that was really weird too, and that's kind of what Veedo is here saying. So, what was the point of that 70s show mom saying stop that over and over again? And I think this is kind of where where what I was saying with the Sword agents comes in at. I think maybe they actually work for Sword. Maybe they're part of the agents that are in there trying to get figure everything out. And as that was all happening, as he was choking and everything, and yeah, it kind of got freaky. Like I was saying, like, oh man, they are going for that horror bent in here. And she's sitting there saying, "Stop it, stop it." And she's at one point,
and the camera angle changed from the sitcom cameras to like up front and close, and it looked like a real show.
Yeah.
Except the ratio was 4:3.
Yeah, and you can see it looked like she's sitting there talking to Wanda. And because, think Wanda probably has something to do with it. And it was weird how that whole scene went down. But I think ultimately those people are possibly agents of Sword also. And I think all these people are people who are in there trying to, again, like I said, like they're trying to use Vision to manipulate Wanda. I think they're in there trying to figure out Wanda. I think maybe there's actually other people in here trying to actually help. Of course, isn't that where a lot of bad things always happen to, where we're trying to help, but we end up doing more harm than good? Look at Tony Stark, for instance.
Mm-hmm. It's his whole career.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where these folks come in at, is I think these are all kind of people trying, and maybe they're in this world confused too, while some of them aren't, trying to figure like, man, how do we deal with Wanda to get her to do what we need, because she's got everything messed up around us, and just
that means that Wanda has control,
right? The manipulations of everything that she's doing, which also brings me back to something else as well, with a lot of that, because something else I was talking about was Doctor Strange. Remember when he was doing the whole Apple thing in the Doctor Strange movie? And Baron Mordo came in there and told him, he's like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, you can't do that. Remember, the world started going crazy and everything. It started turning like that shattered glass looking stuff. And he's sitting there telling him, warning him about using that. He's like, do you want to keep living the same moment over and over? Do you want to do this? He's like, temporal manipulations and all of these things. Not having ever existed at all and all this stuff. And basically what he was getting at is doing what he did was enough to mess everything up. And we see that he's already done that, and we see Wanda in here. She is actually manipulating all this stuff. We seen where that Sword agent came up, the beekeeper came up out of that manhole, and she said no, and she rewound it and started it all over again. And I think that in itself was something that probably set off more kind of those, how would you say, those branchings of reality, because that was something Baron Mordo even mentioned when he was talking about that stuff. I think she's manipulating stuff like with those time manipulations as well, and possibly causing some of that like branching and stuff with some of that.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny thing, because time and reality, even though they're two separate stones, if you're in charge of your own reality, you're in charge of your own perception of time. What was the beekeeper about? Did the beekeeper appear earlier in the episode?
No. Just in that one scene. And it was interesting because he had the Sword logo on the back of his thing too, and we know that
okay, I missed that.
They've typically, the beekeepers have always been synonymous with AIM.
Right.
And so something like very interesting going on there, which comes back into some of the other stuff I was talking about as well with Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3. Where he was talking about when he was talking about his the extremist program, but before he got into all that, when he was talking about he's been working on this thing for years, trying to dodge the president's bans on illegal human DNA experimentation in Iron Man 3. And it made me think about, okay, is he talking about working with Strucker and Dr. List and all those that ended up, because Iron Man 3 essentially led into Age of Ultron. And
Yeah.
and then they had all that stuff at the God, what was that? Where they which one was that? Was at the end of Winter Soldier, where they had they had Dr. List and Von Strucker there, and then we seen Wanda and Pietro the first time. I think that
Yeah, it does sound like Winter
I think
Soldier.
that was Winter Soldier. Because that was like leading right into it too. It makes me wonder if Aldrich Killian was working with them at that time, which would have been Hydra, and Hydra has obviously they infiltrate everything. You know, they would be infiltrating Sword in this case. Um,
I'll take it, and I'll give them their points if they're connecting Iron Man 3 to make it better retroactively.
yeah, and I think that's just some of the stuff going on there. Spencer, thank you so much for being here. Says the episodes were fun. Excited for next week. Absolutely. Like I said, I'm going to be rewatching these because it seems like there's so many things that they mention throughout these episodes that are referencing just so much different stuff that have happened in the MCU. Man, like I said, I could go on and on. I didn't even take notes. I should have taken notes. I'm gonna have to go back and take some notes for some of this stuff because I was sitting there the whole time with my mind blown. You know, like I said, we've gotten all the drops of Mephisto. We see that somebody's actually sitting there. We know that Sword is sitting there watching them, and that was the interesting thing too. Because, like I keep saying with the Pleasant Hill thing, we see they're sitting there watching at the end of the episode. They're sitting there watching on the TV. They're monitoring it, like, and it like if they're sitting there watching it, it only makes me think that they are part of it and creating it. They're not just sitting there watching it. And it's definitely at that base location. I mean, it could very well be Darcy sitting there watching all this stuff as well. Because we know she's part of she's probably working with Sword, and it could be very well her sitting there taking the notes and watching all this stuff going down as well. But it just seems like they are actually sitting there watching and monitoring this TV show while they are at a base of operations, possibly outside of Westview.
Uh-huh. And I did get that vibe also, that this television show, that's all they have to go off of. Maybe because when Wanda was really young, that's the only channel they got. I don't know.
Yeah.
They had the ABC network, of course.
Right.
A lot of these are play off old stuff. Okay, so it's episode 2, the intro. It was animated. I say it was the Jetsons. I also heard it's Bewitched that they were. So have you seen the Bewitched intro?
Yeah.
I haven't. Which have you seen the Jetsons?
Yeah, I think it looked a little closer to Bewitched. I mean, kind of both of them, just because they were so, I don't know, like, it's almost like the one was referencing the other, really, in a cartoon version. But yeah, I mean, they were both very, very, very similar in that sense. But I think definitely Bewitched.
I appreciated the cartoon, going back to the cartoon when he was chewing gum and how you saw it go into his insides and what it was doing. It was giving him, I guess, the drunk effect, maybe. But yo, go crazy, get imaginative, do that. So I'll give them their points there for not being binded by by restrictions of normal everyday stuff. So I'll give them those points. Everyone in the chat is saying bewitched, bewitched, bewitched.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, some people said the beekeeper is the villain's swarm, but I don't see it being him. Yeah, I don't think it is. Although I wouldn't doubt it because they did bring that up recently in the comics. But you know, I mean, largely. Here's something else too. Going back to all of the stuff that's going on. Remember, Vision went to that town hall meeting, and I'm telling you, I think Sword is in control of this. All the people in the town are part of Sword, and they are all trying to figure out and manipulate Wanda with whatever's going on. And obviously, like I'm saying, if we've got AIM here, who for me ties back to Carson Mitchell, ties back to obviously Iron Man 3, ties back into all of these things. It makes me think all these people in there are agents of Sword. Sword has been
Yeah.
infiltrated by AIM, and that scene, and they played it off, and it was hilarious. Where Vision, they're asking him, he's like, "Oh, okay, you know," he's like, "I know something," and he turns to that guy that he works with. He goes, "This guy's a commie," and everybody started laughing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And at that moment, I'm like, they're all laughing and playing it off, but like, I think what Vision is telling them is like, this dude is part of, you know, maybe he's part of AIM or whatnot. He's one of the bad guys. Like
Uh-huh.
this isn't a good guy. I think that's what he was doing there, was pointing him out, and everybody was just like, because you even seen him play it off like, ha ha ha, they're all laughing and everything. And he kind of broke the ice with them. I think that's what it is. Is I think he's not lying. I think that guy actually is one of the bad guys.
One of the bad guys, but not the elite bad guy. If that's
Right.
the main villain of this show, then I don't know, man.
Yeah. And like I said, we see everything going on there too, just kind of behind the scenes. Like they've got that little neighborhood watch thing they've got there. We see they've got the little wives club, just all of these different things, and it's really weird. And it just makes me wonder, like, how where Agnes is playing her part at. You know, because we see her constantly kind of interjecting herself into life. She's kind of helping guide Wanda as well. Um,
And that makes her Agatha Harkness, or does that make her a sword agent who's trying to get involved?
Well, and that's kind of the thing, is I'm wondering if Agnes actually works for, and because I think we all kind of think that she is Agatha Harkness. I think
Yeah.
maybe she works for Sword, and maybe she's part of AIM. Maybe she's part, you know, like just going off of my theories of everything that's going on, is that's how mine for my head canon, that's what it would be, if all this became true, is that she's actually working for or with Sword at the same time. Yeah. Um.
Some bewitched fans in the building.
Yeah. Let's see. ReeferMan says, one thing I can say I like a lot is the feel and tone of those old shows. They nailed it. Yeah, I think they did. I think they did nail the feel and the tone of them. Um, let's see. Just, yeah, tell him stop choking the guy. Grabs the meat through his body. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Um, and it reminded me of the Matrix, right? When he went through and he got the piece of meat out of Mr. Hart from to keep him from choking. I was like, this is like totally Matrix. What's going on here? And it was so weird too how the wife didn't even really react to that, because it seemed like she was kind of stuck in repeat in like a loop where she was sitting there like, stop it. Everything just that whole stuff there was just crazy. It's mind blowing. Like I said, like I'm sitting there watching this whole thing, and my mind is absolutely just like blown this whole time. Just by everything going on.
When I saw Cheryl Dean show up, Monica Rambeau,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was I was happy to see her, and then I thought about the trailer of how she kind of gets booted out of the reality.
Mm-hmm.
In the 70s, is that was when she had the afro, wasn't it? When she gets booted out in the trailers. So I guess that happens in the next episode.
Yeah, I'm guessing so. Yeah, because yeah, it looks like we're going. We basically here got the, you know, the 50s, 60s maybe kind of covered, and then yeah, it looks like, yeah, next episode I'm guessing will probably be that 70s vibe, and it makes me wonder how long you're going to, is it going to be the 70s thing, and then and of course we still haven't got the release schedule. Is next week only going to be one episode, or is it going to be two again?
Yeah, I reckon one
I'm
episode.
guessing
I
so too.
reckon they did not expect to drop two in the beginning, because if they do nine, then by week 10 it would be the beginning of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that would be seamless. But after knowing fans like myself would be upset if we just got one episode, they hurried it up and gave us two right away. So at least I could be like, I got an hour's worth. So I don't feel as empty as I would have if episode one was the only thing I got this week.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, Bewitched 1964. Okay, yeah, 60s. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and I honestly kind of it almost felt like it almost switched there anyway between episode 1 and 2. Um Not necessarily like years. The feel of that second episode felt like a little bit different than that first episode did. Um and it
I don't know. I feel like that idea got old by episode 2. I was like, enough. Let's just get to present. Let's just get to outside of the pocket reality. I want more, but maybe episode 3. So some people are doing reviews on 3 episodes and say that 3 is when everything starts to pick up.
yeah.
And okay, uh, Marvel has never let me down. I'm not going to be upset because one whole hour of mediocre Marvel. This may just be good.
Yeah. Um let's see. Aggressively relaxing. Thank you so much for being here, my man. Says old men in the chat. Bewitched. Samantha Bus a queen. Oh, is a queen? Yeah. Yeah. Lord Veedo says they didn't say Omega, but reality warping at that scale is considered Omega level. Oh yeah. Domino. Something like Domino affecting luck is low level warping. This is so powerful to change reality at will. Yeah.
Yeah, that was explained in House of X when Jonathan Hickman said there's only 15 Omega levels, and it means that they have no restrictions to their abilities.
Right. Yeah. They're basically immeasurable because it could go on and on. Yeah. There's It says, I wonder, will they do 90s sitcoms? Yeah, they're definitely doing 90s.
Full House.
Yeah, they're definitely doing the 90s one. Definitely. And you know what's funny is if you've seen the posters for the 90s one, it looked like am I wrong? That's the one that looked like Saved by the Bell. It looked more like
I don't remember.
It looked like a little bit more like it was Saved by the Bell, where the 80s one looked a little bit more man, I don't even know how to explain it. It looked a little more like Tron, kind of like that purple and like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But just yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to have characters who go to school if you want to do Saved by the Bell. If you're doing the 90s, you're not going to touch the Cosby Show, but what was the 90s hit show?
I would say it was like that Full House. Full House. God wasn't
Full House.
Wasn't Roseanne there? Was because I see the dude saying Roseanne. Was that would have been, was that 90s? I think that would have been 90s as well. I think that would have been 90s as well. I can't remember. It was so long ago. I'm so old.
Yeah.
I grew up watching these shows.
We grow up fast, and we get pregnant and have our kids fast too.
Right. Absolutely.
So, second episode, second trimester.
Yeah, and seeing that was some crazy stuff too. Like she was like all of a sudden once, she was all of a sudden pregnant. All of a sudden had that baby bump.
No, episode 1, there was some action when the beds connected. Mm-hmm. They went under the sheets.
Right.
I thought that's what Neighborhood Watch was actually talking about. Like the commotion that they were going to complain about was due to the Wanda and Vision doing that.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought, but it didn't seem like that.
Very well could be. Very well could be, and it could have been that helicopter that crashed because that helicopter that she found in the bush. Remember she went out there, Wanda went out there and she's looking at that helicopter in the bush, and that's right when Agnes walked in. Right when Agnes walked in, like she knew what was going on, trying to distract her. I kind of felt like.
Oh.
And
you noticed the sword logo, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, you could hear that helicopter before it crashed. You could hear in the background. That's when she's like, what is that? And that's when she ended up going outside, and it was all miniature like that. And like that miniature helicopter really only makes me think even more about the fact that, like, maybe like my whole theory with Carson Mitchell that ended up getting away with the cross particle. Maybe they are using that. Maybe he's working with AIM. And maybe that was a drone that they're using to monitor everything that's going on around Westview. I'll continue calling it Westview until we finally find out that it's Pleasant Hill, but...
Aggressively is asking about the Olsens.
I do think the Olsen twins will show up in the Full House episode to do their sisters. I think, honestly, Mary-Kate and Ashley are going to be Wiccan and Speed.
Whoa.
Uh-oh. Marvel Studios going woke.
I think that I'm looking at Wanda look at things go haywire twice in this series. Or well, maybe three, actually. The first we talked about the dinner table, she solved it. The second time we talked about the helicopter, it looks like Agnes came to be a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
The third time is when Vision is drunk and he's doing the magic tricks wrong, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta cover up for Boo. Oh, look, it was a piano that was actually a cardboard piano. What do you know?" So there's a theme here of her trying to protect her reality,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
And she's not in control of Vision if Vision can get drunk and she doesn't know what's wrong with him. Drunk, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that all that it was interesting too. And I think that's kind of why with the citizens of the town, you know, like I think a lot of them are those like I said, I think they are sword agents. But I'm wondering if maybe all of them are, all of them aren't, because in that magic show, remember they changed the piano and it's just a little cardboard cutout, and that Jones guy, he goes, "That was my grandma's piano." And like he was like seriously disappointed. Like you could tell like this, like it was, and they didn't even try to make it funny or gloss it, brush it off as comedy or anything. Like it was just a
No.
quick shot, and he was like, "That's my grandma's piano," and he
Yeah,
like
that's something
he
special.
was like, yeah, he was like seriously disappointed about that, and just, but just all so many of the things going on there. It's just such a strange situation, and that's why I think there's like we know the MCU doesn't do direct comic adaptations. They take everything and they put it in a blender. And that's
Mhm.
why I kind of feel like we're getting kind of I think we're getting a lot of stories here in one. Being blended into the series to further expand the MCU in this case. Like it's crazy. Like I said, just off the stuff that only I've been theorizing on, not even looking at anybody else's, just my whole Pleasant Hill theory. Everything in these 2 episodes blows my mind, completely blows my mind, and only feeds in to making me lose sleep for the next 6 to 8 weeks, even more longer, and I hate it.
It happens.
Yeah, I can already feel my day not being very productive because my mind's racing. But
Man.
do you have any last thoughts, theories, or anything going into after episode 1 and 2 that you'd like to share going into episode 3?
No, there's nothing I want to share, but like whatever they are building to, maybe like Veedo is saying it was some demonic-ish. If they're leading to a Blade, some appearance, if they're leading to a Blade movie, okay, I'll give them their points. I just think no, a not so ordinary Jedi. I did not think it was awesome, but I do think that there's potential there. And I'm just repeating myself. So yeah, follow me on YouTube, Chillmonger, everybody.
Absolutely, guys. Go make sure you go check out Chillmonger. There's a link to his channel down in the description. Dude does some awesome videos, great videos.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sure you go check him out. One of my favorite YouTubers. One of my favorite YouTubers. So make sure you go check him out.
My favorite.
Yeah, and yeah, I was saying he's his own favorite YouTuber. Steve, what is up, my man? I hope you're doing well, my brother. But yeah, guys, thank you all so much for being here. Again, if you guys are watching this on the replay or live, if you have any other theories or anything you want to share, feel free to leave those down in the comment section. Let me know if like I'm crazy. Am I crazy? Like maybe, you know what? Chances are you probably haven't read Avengers Standoff, The Assault on Pleasant Hill or anything to maybe validate and help give me my confirmation bias that maybe I'm right here about them living in Pleasant Hill and everything here. But hey, if you'd like to do that, make me feel better about my theories, and when they all come crashing down and I look like a complete idiot and I'm not feeling very good about life, make sure that you're subscribed so you can be there for me to pat me on the back. But thank you all so much for being here. You all have a good day, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.